If you think you're right, and staple them right now and then still right within the margins, feel free to staple them. But yeah, I was just waiting until after this one, then you can staple it all up. So that way you guys, you don't like staple too far to the right and then you can't write. So then after, yeah, it's your book. You can do what you want with it. Okay. A couple things for today. Please make sure as you're going through this, okay, there is, I want you guys just to understand this one's a relatively simple lesson. It's not going to challenge you too much, where I just want you guys to give me an example of a line that is parallel to the equation that is listed. Okay, so what is the slope of this equation? The slope is 3. Okay? And so all I want you to do is give me another equation that is parallel to that line. So it would be y equals 3, because that's the slope, that's what's required, x, and then we'll go plus, I don't know, Jordan, favorite number? That line is parallel. Simple. Not too complicated. Okay? Now, the other one here, give an example of a perpendicular line that is, so what is the slope of this line, this equation? All right, this slope is 2. So that means a perpendicular slope is going to be what? -1/2. It would be -1/2. Okay, because remember, you take it and you flip it. So you, instead of having 2 on top, you put it on the bottom. So it'd be 1/2, and then you multiply in a negative value. Okay, so the only thing we really care about is this -1/2. All right, so now what do? Does it matter? Anything else matter? No, it's y equals. You put an x right here, and then we'll go minus. Ms. Fitzsimmons, what is your favorite number?
7.
Thank you. There we go, 7. That'll be perpendicular. Okay, the only thing that matters are the slopes. Now, what I have a feeling is that most of you got these wrong on the quiz because you couldn't do the following. Okay, where you would have right aligned to the equation, not this one, but number 4. Y equals 2x minus 1, and the point is -3, 1. All right, so what I want you to do is write an equation that is parallel to this line. So how do we do that? All right, so what do we have? So we have a point, but do we also have a slope?
Yeah.
The answer is what?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so here's what I got to make sure you guys understand. On number 1 and number 2, this is what always perplexes me as an individual. You guys can tell me what this slope is right here. I just asked, some of you said 3, maybe some of you don't get it. Okay, that you can't tell that this slope is 3. Then I asked, what is the slope here? 2. And then I ask you, what is the slope of this line? And you're like, I don't know. We don't have one. How is that possible? That you would think I don't know what the slope is. That's what I have to find out, okay? Because if you know it's y equals m, and then we come to this line right here, and I say, what's the slope of the line? And you're like, I don't know. How is that possible? Now, I know it is possible because it happens all the time. But the question you have to start asking yourself is, how much are you actually thinking about these things as you go through? Okay? Because we know that that is the slope right there. Because it's given to us. Okay, so what you guys need to know now is, since we know that m equals 2, can we write our point slope form? Yes. Okay? It would be y minus 1, right? And then it equals your slope, because that's the formula, and it's x minus always, and then I want you guys to write it like this, the -3, so that you understand what are you supposed to do to this point here. Make it a what? addition. Okay, so you guys know that this is actually what the equation is supposed to look like, plus 3. All right, now you do the distribution. So this would be y minus 1 again equals what? 2x plus 6. Add 1 to both sides, and you get y equals 2x plus 7. That's it. Same line, has the same slope, right? So you should know you're going along the same aspects of this. All right, now, write an equation that is perpendicular to the line of this equation. And this is the one that I'm pretty sure got everybody. Something like this. Because you couldn't find the slope. All right, so how do we make, what do we have to do that equation to find the slope? Make it what? What, Logan?
You have to subtract the 4.
Okay, not just the 4, but also the 4.
Okay.
All right, because we got to make it slope-intercept form. All right, so if you don't know where to begin, remember, the only way to find the slopes is somewhere in the equation has to be an M. Either point slope form has an M or slope intercept has an M, but standard has no M. M represents what? Your slope. Okay, so you got to know where it's at on there. All right, so on here, this would be 3y equals negative 4x plus 6. Now what do you do, ladies and gentlemen?
Divide the 3y.
Divide by what?
The 3y.
The 3, not just 3y, but divide by 3. Okay, do I have my slope now? Yeah, okay. If you want to write the formula out, you can. It's y equals negative 4 over 3x plus 2. So your slope is 4/3, negative 4/3. Okay, what would be the perpendicular slope of that? Okay, you know the perp slope would be 3 over what? 4. So now, ladies and gentlemen, can we write an equation of a line perpendicular? The answer is yes. Okay, we have the slope here. We have the point there. You guys just need to be able to write it in. Now, same thing applies. Please start writing it like this, where it's y minus, and then what is my point? It's a negative, which will turn it positive, okay? For all of you in here that don't understand how these signs are switching, please write it like this. If you understand how it's doing it, and you don't have to write it like that, please don't. The problem is that a majority of you in here aren't getting this part right. You're messing this part, and then you're done. And then your whole equation's gone, and you're getting the wrong answer by one tiny mistake. Okay? Now you can rewrite it if you want. It's y plus 5. And now you solve, right? So on here, you distribute. And then that would be what? 3/4 x. And then if you distribute that in, you guys will get plus 6. If you don't know how I got that, 8 times 3 is 24. Divided by 4 is 6. And then you subtract by 5 and you're done. Okay? So your answer comes out to be and that's it. So there's your equation. Okay, now when you ask, that's a lot of work. It is. Okay, now I write a lot extra down so that for everybody in here, not for my higher level students, but for everybody that struggles with this, to understand some of the breaking points that you'll have. Okay, is that understand how this works here. I want you to find the perpendicular, how the negatives work and change the signs on the inside. It's very important that you guys put those pieces together because you're missing it and lacking that skill right now. All right, any questions on this? Okay, so that's the last of the examples, but because number 10 is more along the lines of what we're going to be talking about on Thursday and Friday, or we'll start a little bit tomorrow, as I want to see how the test questions are going. So we'll probably start we are going to keep going down the line, except on Friday it's probably not going to be a quiz, even though I have one in Alex. I might keep it just so you guys could practice using Desmos. Okay, but as it stands right now, can't do 10, so we're going to do the applications real quick. All right, I want you to make sure you guys can do these word problems. There are some of these on the Alex homework that you guys have gotten already, where you're basically just going to plug in the values as you go, given a slope and a y-intercept. All right, my youngest son, every time he would get gas, he would walk into the gas station, give the guy $20 and walk out, and that's all he would fill up his car. I go to fill up the car, he'd just put $20 in. Every single time. Didn't matter the car. Some cars you get more gas, some cars you get less. Okay, it's always the same amount of gallons, but whether or not it's half full, quarter, every time it was just do $20. So for you guys, what you need to know is if you go and it says here, if you purchase an $8 car wash, okay, the cost per gallon of gas is $2.60. Write and solve an equation to find out how many gallons you can afford if you have a total of $40. So we know that's how much you have. Where do the other two numbers go? Yes, though.
2.6x plus 8.
All right, now why is it 2.6x?
Because it's cost per gallon.
That's right. So please understand, most of you in here, we're struggling with this as well. Not just setting up an equation, but understanding why. Because what now, okay, as we go through this year, it's going to say, what is the slope? It's 2.6. You guys have to figure that out. Some of you weren't figuring those things out. All right, now, how many gallons of gas can you afford? That's your equation. You simply solve it, right? Minus 8 on both sides. So you have 2.6x equals 32. Divide that by 2.6 and you come up with 12.3 gallons. Okay, simple math. Now, what if doesn't matter if we don't know what how much money we have is? No, but what you guys need to know that technically you could actually just sit here and say, all right, anytime you have an equation, here's your actual base. So you could say, all right, if I get 10 gallons of gas, how much money am I going to spend? Right? If I get 14, if I get 15. Everybody knows in 2012, I think it was, nope, 2010, 11, the gas prices in our state and every other rose to rose up to $4.50 a gallon. We had the huge economic crisis. Middle East wasn't giving us any gas. We didn't have any of our own gas. Gas prices went through the roof. Basically, that's when people realized that they actually had a limit on their ATM card for how much gas you could get at a gas station. People started pumping gas, and then all of a sudden it would stop, and their tank wasn't full because it would stop at $75 on the dime, because that's all that was allowed that the banks were allowing to take out at the time. And people were like, what the? Because gas was so expensive, especially for bigger trucks. So for you guys, you'd want to know, all right, if something is, when you own a business, how is it going to work? How much gas can you get? It's very important, especially for you guys. You won't use the equations, but you'll use the concept. Especially if you're older. Who in here is going to be, who's already 15 in here?
I'm turning it in 2 weeks.
All right. Who has the September birthdays? Is it just October that you guys all turned 15? All right, so you four that raised your hand, you'll be the first ones that are going to ask who is going to be my best friend, like to drive. Because when you start learning how to drive a car, ladies and gentlemen, is when basically you magically get a whole bunch of friends that will start coming up and saying, hey, remember me? We sat in English class together. Can we go to such and such place today? And they'll start asking you, I'll give you gas money. I'll give you gas money. Happens all the time. Okay? Or you'll always have those friends that are not really friends. They're the ones that are hanger-ons that basically just want to use you for a car. Those will come along as well. So if they start asking you, charge them gas money. But make sure you're charging them enough that it makes sense. Like that equation, all right? If you're going to downtown Phoenix or you're going to like the Mills, let's go to the Mills together. And they give you $5 for gas. Is that going to be enough? Probably not. Okay? So be smart about how you guys are doing it as you're going forward, all right? All right, so now we have another one. Given a point and a slope. This is a little bit more difficult of an equation, but it's relatively simple to set up, okay? Oops. What the? All right, hold on. Board went crazy. All right, so on here, ladies and gentlemen, why that line appeared. All right, so we have a point and a slope. So you sign up for a cable service. You must purchase a DVR recorder up front. The problem is it doesn't tell us how much the DVR recorder is up front. Okay? So what you do is then they pay $19.95 per month for the service. And then after 8 months, Martha has paid $288.60. Write and solve a linear equation to find the total amount she will pay on her 2-year agreement. Now, here's what you guys, some of you were trying to do this on that number 4. The problem is that there's always an upfront cost that some of you guys are missing, and you did on that equation. So this is what I mean. All right, what would be the slope? In this real world example, the slope is $19.95 because that's what you're paying what? Per month. Do you have a point on here? Technically, we do. After 8 months, and 8 is always represented in X, she has paid $288.60. Okay, so what you have to understand is what is the rest of this equation, right? So it's going to be Y minus, and then you put 288.6. It equals 1995, and then it'd be X minus 8. And then you would go through this process, okay? So now you do the simple math on this. Now, I don't have the math on this. You'd want to use a calculator. I have it written down, but I want you guys to make sure you know, here's this. And then, ladies and gentlemen, it would be minus 159.6. Then what's my next step? Add, okay? I would add 288 to both sides. Now, here's where I got to make sure you guys understand. Some of you messed up again on the test. All right, so my equation comes out to be y equals, I'm going to extend it and I'll bring it back, 1995x, and it's plus 129. What does that mean? What does the 1995 mean? That's the monthly cost. What does 129 mean? That's what you guys have to know. Just to let you know this year, that's what they're going to ask. They'll give you the equation. They're going to ask you, what is $129? What does that represent?
A DVR recorder.
Because if you look, exactly what he said, to sign up for cable, you must purchase the DVR recorder up front. Do we know how much that costs? We do now. It was how much? 129. That is what's going to be asked of you when you guys take Galileo tests, when you take the final, when you actually go into ACT land and SAT. They'll give you the equation. Now, you may have to make it, but then they're going to ask, what does this number mean once you get there? That's what my goal is for you guys to understand, is that she's paying $19.95 a month plus the upfront cost of $129. Now, it says to find how much she has to pay after how many years? It's a 2-year agreement, right? But what does X stand for? Is that a month or is that a year? It's a month. So what number goes right here in this blank? Right, because they want to know how much she's going to pay in 2 years. Right, so if you get a calculator out and you figure it out, ladies and gentlemen, she pays $607.80 for a 2-year agreement. Most people, by the way, when they get cable, satellite nowadays, guess what they do? This. Pay an upfront cost, and then they pay monthly. Yet nobody ever really pays attention to how much they're actually paying over the lifetime of the deal. That's what this is. It's a real thing for if you have a budget where basically if you sign up for an agreement, by the way, and 2 months in you cancel it, most of the time, guess what you have to pay? The whole thing, right up front. So please be cautious when you guys get into the real world, right? And you sign up for like Dish Network or any type of satellite TV service. If you cancel the service, it's not cancel at any time. It's usually cancel the service. Guess what you pay? For the whole 2 years. Okay, so make sure you guys are aware of that before you head into those agreements. And then the last thing I'll show you right now is just given 2 points. Okay, where the same thing applies here, where you have a point of 1 day, and then it would be 3.5 for that cost. And then the other point is going to be 4 days for newspaper advertisement at $8. And then you have to basically, ladies and gentlemen, figure out what is the equation for a 7-day ad. It's not, let's figure out the average, where you basically say, all right, let's do the slope. 8 over 4, and then it'd be 3.5 over 1. So it'd end up being what? 4.5 divided by 3, which is, your slope is $1.50. So the answer is not to take $1.50 and multiply it by 7. That's not the answer. Because just like with the DVR, okay, there is an upfront cost. The DVR, you pay $19.95 a month, but it doesn't make any sense unless you know what it costs up front. So this has to be done the same way, where now this is a lot of weird math with decimal places and stuff like that. But it's the same thing where you would go y minus, and then you'd plug in your easiest equation, which would be the one with the 1 on it. And then it would be 1.5 x minus 1, just like that. Then you would do the math. Where you distribute that in. And then the last thing is to do what? Add 3.5 to both sides. And when you do that, you now get an equation. So let me ask you guys this, hypothetically or realistically speaking, with this one and the other one that you have on your paper, okay, about the satellite dish. If you were to come up with a negative number right here, would that be realistic? No, because what would that negative number be saying? The newspaper is doing what? They're paying you to put an ad in the paper. If you did the work on this one right here, on the bottom here, and it said you had to purchase a DVR up front, yet you come up with an equation, and this is 1995x minus 60. You're telling me that the cable service is paying you $60 to take their stuff. I doubt that's possible. On the quiz, when you guys did number 4, a lot of you were doing, there was one about a candlestick burning. And some of your answers were actually higher. So it said at 4 hours, it was like 12.2 centimeters. What is that at 8 hours? Some of you are like, it's 15. How the hell, if a candle's burning, how is it going higher? It should be going which way? Lower. double check your math, okay? Make sure you guys are given good stuff or it makes sense of what you're doing, right? And then the last one, I'll just give you the setup, but you guys can figure it out. They do money questions like this all the time, where a dime, represents a dime, and then this would represent a what? Quarter, because the dime's worth how much? 10 cents, and a quarter's worth 25. And then what you would do is if it says it has 26 dimes, you'd put 0.1, and then instead of X, you'd put 26. And then what would you do, ladies and gentlemen? You would just solve for what? Solve for Y. Most of you can do that on your own. And find out, multiply that in, that would be what? 2.6, subtract it from both sides, divide, you'd be able to through this, okay? Finish this up. If you want to answer this on your own, you can. Use this when we come back from lunch. You guys are going to use this guide to help you with test corrections if you need to do them, which most of you in here need to do those. Or, ladies and gentlemen, to actually for the test next week. If you want to staple it now, you can, okay, because I don't have anything else to write. Because usually it's when you staple it, it's harder to lay it flat and write on it. So please make sure you do those things. Any questions? All right. Bell will ring shortly. That's it for today.
Bring up in this.
No, that was